Good evening, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I am your host, Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of Zemidia, and I'm so happy to be able to bring you Crime Crunchies. So happy Saturday night to everyone in the live. Hello to everyone on the replay crew, if you are a replay crewin'. Thank you again so much. I'm seeing folks already in the chat. Thank you so much, Tam. This is so awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. And you know what? I have a whole bunch of new people tonight. Hey, Alpha Wolf. I have a bunch of new people that just came in tonight because you know what? I was watching the lab last night and they had a call in. It was a dial in show. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go and say hello to Josh and Dr. Brucato. And you know what? It was, fangirling a little bit because I have purchased the new Evil hard copy and ebook. Hi, Crunchy. Look at all my folks. And hey, J Dub, thank you so much for the email. I saw your email today. You are competing with Joe for emails to Crime Crunchies, but thanks so much. Yes, I was so honored to be on last night and just get to say hello and chit chat with Dr. Brocato and Josh on the lab. I love them. So no complaints here. And thanks to everybody who subscribed after that show, had a little bounce from that. And I just, I wasn't really trying to go on and plug. I really honestly just wanted to talk to Gary and tell him what AI had said, that Chad had said that he's the most consistent profile. Okay, so let's dive in. We're still talking Derek Callella, okay, because I resisted the family theory for a very long time. I stuck to what Bananos had said about the family being cleared, but as time has gone on, nobody really should technically be cleared until somebody is got the little mug shot going and is in their arraignment hearing. And for sure, the feds, FBI has not cleared anybody. Oh my gosh, this is Blue Heron. I'm a new subscriber. I caught the tail end of your live yesterday and you had me cracking up. I was loopy yesterday. I definitely was loopy. I can be I say I'm weird, okay? If you like weird, we're weird. And I want you to be weird too. So, all right, going back. So, I didn't go down the whole family route because I wanted to honor what the family was going through. I had put a lot of trust into known ads at the very beginning, not realizing what we were dealing with. And the last thing any family, any victim needs to deal with is having a microscope put on them at seriously the worst time in your life. Unimaginable what these people are going through. The fact that they are still putting one foot in front of the other is truly amazing. We all have a Nancy in our life, a Nancy Guthrie, and just again, we're all there. We're all there together. Okay. But and during this time, if you are new to the show, I have so many videos. I've gone down every theory. I've gone down the theory of robbery gone wrong. I've gone down theory of South American theft group. I've gone down theories of wrench attacks. I've gone down theories of obsessed fan or fixated fan of Savannah. And I probably spent more time on the fixated fan than I did anything else because for the longest time, I was very convinced that considering the family on that very immediate day of Nancy being missing, everybody's going. Annie's going, Cam's going, Savannah's going, kidnapped for ransom. You guys, that's not a normal knee-jerk reaction when your 84-year-old mother is missing. It's just not, okay? And with Savannah being a celebrity And them immediately going to that just told me that there had been some threat looming, some weirdo looming, and her contacting Senator Kelly and then Nanos in the night and getting it changed from an adult walk-off to, a real crime scene. I just felt like there had to be a connection. And I spent most of my time on that theory, resisting the family. I even defended it. I said, you know what? It can't be the family because as much crap as this sheriff department has dealt with, okay, the black eyes, the embarrassment. There's no way they wouldn't have had a ticker tape parade carrying the perp on their shoulders, okay? They would have paid for a social media campaign for that mugshot to show up in your Facebook newsfeed. I was convinced. The family is always the very, very first one that they look at. And as we saw, we went through the timeline. We're going to look at that again tonight a little bit as far as when ICACs went in very quickly on the 4th of February. They were in downloading phones and computers at Annie's home. I'm thinking there's just no way. They had that car for 50 days. They had the car for 50 days. They destroyed the car. The car took 50 days because they had to order. They had to order a new headliner. They had to order a new dash. They had all the little buttons they had to special order. It took that long to put the car back together, okay? And just, you don't kick them when they're down, guys. You don't kick them when they're down. But as time went on, I kind of just, like I said, I had my little circle and I put it on the corner of my desk, my very messy desk. If you need to know, I have a very messy desk, okay? I think it's a sign of intelligence. My sister says it's not. But my message, I had a corner of the desk where I put the family there because it's like, I'm just going to keep my eye on them, okay? But then we always knew that this Derek Callella text had come out. And I forgot, I even went down the MG Motors, Zach. We went through that. We went through everything, you guys. I've looked at everything. And I say this every time. If there's new evidence next week, we're going to follow the evidence. And that's where we are right now. We're following the evidence, and it's too much of a coincidence with this weird text that Derek Callella had sent. And, with all the statistics that Dr. Brucato has taught us and just life, we see it all the time. We're true crimers. Statistically, the family is going to be involved. And, who has motive, who has a need, who gains, who benefits. And so we started talking about some of those things. And really, I'm right in with the family. And hey, Joe, I just wanted to mention to you that I haven't forgotten your email. I started looking into that renter. I'm just not finding a lot of information on it. So don't think I'm ignoring your email because I'm still looking for more information on the renters. So hello, Joe. The comment that I saw was the inside of the car was equivalent to an airbag going off. What does that mean? That there wasn't a lot of damage in the Guthrie mobile? Or, interesting. Because I would have thought that they tore that thing up 12 ways to Tuesday. Okay. So we're following where the evidence goes. And I'm the kind of person that I'm keeping an open mind on everything. I read all of your comments because this is how I gather new information and figure new stuff out. We're all learning from each other. We're all helping each other. We're all armchair sleuthing. So I don't have to be right. I don't want to be right. I just want Nancy. Honestly, at this point, I want to know who did it, why they did it, but I really mostly just want her remains to be found. So with all that yippee yapping, we're going to look again at the timeline where we learn that Derek Callella sends texts to A&T at just about the exact time ICACS is in the house. And so, I had wondered originally Who had that phone? Who got those texts? Who was holding that device when those texts came in? And there's a higher probability than not that actually law enforcement could have had those devices when the texts came in, and A&T may not have had an opportunity to delete them. So let me share my screen. We're just going to look at iChat here. And while I'm doing this, if you're brand new, I know that there's still some of you out there. There's still some of you out there that have not subscribed. I would like you to be a cool kid. Once you subscribe, you are a cool kid. The Cool Kids Club. All right, so what I did was I have a 2-week timeline that ChatGPT, who I call Chad, I had a 2-week timeline, but pretty much today I just asked Chad to just, give me the dates from February 4th through basically when the SWAT detainees are handled. And the reason why I am particularly interested in the order of appearance of all of this is because it just seems really odd that they get Derek Callella not even 24 hours, within like 20 hours, of Derek Callella sending the text to A&T on February 4th at 6:02 p.m. and then calling a third device, a family member's device, for 9 seconds, which, I mean, we all assumed that A&T was receiving these and answering the phone, but this family member, it's just probably the kid. That's more guilt, because I can see maybe finding A&T's phone number on truthfinder.com, but is a minor's cell phone going to be on truthfinder.com? I mean, I don't think so. It's even if you've got 4 or 5 phones on your bill, it's usually going to be the adults that are on like a property county assessor's list, that the phone numbers are going to be associated with an actual address and their cell phones, and not a minor. Okay. So I'm thinking, and everybody probably came to the same conclusion, it could be the minor child's phone, which again points to more guilt that Derek Callella had all these phone numbers. And if he did have the phone number of a child, it's like, okay, that's like even more creepy. There's no reason for that. So again, 6:02 p.m., the texts come in from Callella. Do you have the Bitcoin? We're waiting for the transaction. And ICAX got there on February 4th around 5 p.m. So again, it's very probable that they were in the middle of downloading the phones. So again, next day, February 5th, it did not take FBI. I mean, we probably all could have found who Derek Callella is with that number if you just do a reverse search of the number, and then it's a VoIP tied to his Gmail address. It's completely his name. It almost gives his middle name and birthday. That's just how brazen this was with his email. So the next day they arrest him, and I just have to wonder, how much is he spilling? What is he singing like a canary? And I do want to acknowledge, is it Mystery Diva? Mystery Diva had mentioned Callella has a proffer from FBI. And I did a quick search before we went live, and basically a proffer is a deal for information. So I'm going to give you information if you give me a deal. I did not find anything about a proffer, but it's not going to be public knowledge. And while we did review the court docs from his plea hearing on July 2nd that I stole from Chris McDonough, and I'm sorry, I tried to buy them myself. I couldn't find them, and so I'm sorry. to Chris McDonough on the interview room, but I credited you because you did get them, you obtained them, you paid for them, and I'm sorry. I will try not to do that again. I ran out of time. If you want, I will Venmo you, you know, whatever it costs. So I stole the court documents, and in it, it stated that if there is an addendum or additional documentation, that it would be under seal. And as you know, I read every single comment that anybody does on the replay crew. And somebody came through and said, Jennifer Coffindaffer, and I love her, but somebody's called her Coffin Dagger. And so now I kind of think of her as Coffin Dagger. So anyway, Jennifer Coffindaffer had said that that is standard. So there may not be a there if an addendum is available and under seal. So I was hoping that it meant that there was more juice. There may not be more juice, and that makes me sad. But if there's no juice, because, honestly, I don't want it to be the family. I really just do not want it to be the family, because think of the blowback. If you think that these people are emotionally traumatized and destroyed, imagine it being an inside job and you just learning that. And that is, and you're right. You know what? I disagree with her a lot, and I'm only repeating what Jennifer is frequently wrong, and I actually don't agree with her on a few things. I respect the hell out of her, though. So we don't know. I'm just repeating because I want to be accurate and say that there may not be sealed documents somewhere, but I at least want to mention it. So so going back, I just really, really, really do not want it to be the family, guys. I mean, it is what it is. The die is cast. Whoever is behind this, Maureen O'Connell says that she, has contacts and she's ex-FBI. She knows how to keep her mouth shut, and that, they're going to get close to Porch Guy. Maybe they are waiting for the hair. Maybe they have other stuff. It's hard to say, but I really just hope it's not. I really hope it's not the family. That's a whole level of dirty. The only reason why I'm going down this path is because it makes sense. I'm looking for anything that could be logical and where the piece of the puzzle fits. And right now, we're kind of looking at that. Okay. So when Callella goes in and is arrested, he pretty much just folds. He says, yeah, I did send the text, but I was just going to see if the family was, I was just going to see if they respond, I was just curious, whatever. But we know that there's so much connection. A Mystery Diva even mentioned that Derek and T played at Club Congress on August 1st, 2025. So I haven't seen that flyer, but absolutely could be out there. We all are pretty much convinced that they know each other or are in the same circles, 2 degrees separated, whatever. Okay. So there has to be a connection. And again, just going down the theory that we have to, not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but we have to look at this. It's fair. And it's all speculation. But if somebody needed an elimination done for, it could be a lot of different reasons. Okay. And, it's just something that we've just come to the point where something needs to happen. I'm thinking that I'm going to get this guy in California because no one's going to connect us, right? I'm thinking I'm pretty safe. No one's going to connect us. And then California guy zigzags back and says, yeah, you know what? There's a bit of a drug scene at Club Congress, little drugs, little drug sale, little drug purchase, little satanic music, chippa tappa tappa tappa, diabolical. Okay. So we've got all that whole little scene going on. And yeah, I know a guy. And this guy could have those contacts with MG Motors. And so if Derek is hiring this guy, Derek could, hire him for a couple grand. Derek needs money because he's got an embezzlement charge going on in California. We all could use a little bit. And we know that Bitcoin can be sparsed out. That Bitcoin doesn't have to be a whole Bitcoin. It could be a half of a Bitcoin. You could do a lot with, 30 grand, as far as paying down your embezzlement charge and then paying off Satan ritual groupie, okay, to do the deed. So during this time of February 5th, what's really going on? Because February 10th, we get the video not from Nanos, but from the FBI of Porch Guy. But they don't do anything that isn't well thought out. So if they already on the 10th have a SWAT planned down in Rio Rico for Carlos, and it doesn't give me his last name, and I forget his last name, but February 10th, that morning of February 10th is when the first video, the only video of Porch Guy is released by the FBI. They worked out, and that's pretty good considering this was February 1st. FBI got with Google and got the image of January 11th plus the video pretty much salvaged from this whole thing. So February 10th, the morning of, the video is released and everybody's just freaking out because it just is terrifying. But then we're thinking, oh my God, they've got him, because they go and do that SWAT in Rio Rico. They've got him. So that's 5 days from when Callella is arrested. In that 5 days, we've got the FBI working with Google to get this video. Somebody at the FBI has reviewed the entire video and has trimmed it down to the amount that we've seen that is safe for public consumption. We know that there's got to be more video, so it's been trimmed down. They've learned a lot from this video. But and the guy in Rio Rico, I do want to mention, he is a delivery driver. So if they're pulling cell phones that hit the towers, in that time frame that they're looking at, I just can't imagine that a delivery driver is going around in the middle of the night. So I don't know. I think that's kind of just low-hanging fruit, the whole delivery driver thing. There has to be something else. There has to be a connection. Did they have to get to Carlos in order to get to Luke? Or was Carlos just a mistake? Carlos could be just, a throwaway mistake. I really feel like there's probably more with Luke Daly, okay? Because he's got the Range Rover, he's got the connection to MG Motors, and there just seems like there's a lot more with Luke Daly than this Carlos guy. Again, speculation. I could be completely, reaching for straws. I don't know. But what is Callella sharing after his arrest? They are obviously going to take Callella's phone and they're going to download his phone. was Carlos in Rio Rico in his phone? Had there been communication with Carlos? And I'm just going through ideas. I'm brainstorming with you guys. Okay. I'm talking right now and going through possibilities. So in my brain, I'm thinking, what did they find on Callella's phone after they got him in on February 5th? If they have a number for Carlos in Rio Rico, could Carlos have been a point of contact in the string of telephone calls to Porch Guy? Thank you so much. What is it? Chugga-nuts? I love that. Chugga-nuts. What? I love the Chugga-nuts. Thank you so much for becoming a member. That is so awesome. I tell you guys, I want you to spend money on yourselves and go buy groceries. That would make me so happy. But I still have people who resist to become members. So thank you so much. You're getting ready to get in trouble. Yes, you are now a cool kid in the cool kids club. Thank you so much, Chugga-nuts. Thank you so much. Shout out. So Carlos is a delivery driver. He lives in Rio Rico, but he is in Tucson a lot. He spoke very good English. I don't know if that's his primary language or if Spanish is a second language or Spanish is his first language and English is a second, but doesn't matter. All I'm saying is he spoke English. In the interview I saw with him, he spoke Espanol and he spoke English. So, he's a delivery driver. He's in Tucson. If he's in the scene, it doesn't even have to be around. He doesn't even have to be around Club Congress. He could just be a guy on the fringe of this drug scene. We know Callella is, he has a drug problem. No judgment, okay, but there's going to be people who are buying and selling, and he doesn't have to be associated with Club Congress. So could Carlos' number have been in Callella's phone? Because they went and they swatted Carlos in Rio Rico, didn't find anything that we know of, but he was detained, but he was never, what they call hooked up. There's no mugshot. He was never arrested. And of course, Carlos is going to say, when somebody asked him, do you remember delivering a package to Nancy's house? Now, I'm not a mind reader, but I remember what Carlos said, could have, I don't know. Just the way he said it, it's almost like, yeah, that's exactly why I was there. Like somebody's leading him into why he was in that area or why he got detained. Yeah, I must have delivered, I don't remember, but I must have delivered a package there. And, I have to think that he's going to remember delivering a package in that area. Okay? He's going to remember a package. At that point because of the story. But maybe not. If I would imagine you would, but I could be wrong. All right. So what if Carlos, his phone, he got swatted because his phone appeared in Callella's? And it seems so random that I have to think that, because everyone's like wondering, why did he get swatted? There seemed to be nothing there. Maybe it was just, he could have been in the area, could have been geofenced, like, he said, and we've thought, but he also, what if he appeared in Callella's phone? I'm just trying to see if there could be a logical tie between these fellows and Callella. But I think the real thing would be on February 13th, because there's the Range Rover that clearly was searched and taken away for forensics. And you have to wonder why. The MG Motors is on the back of the car, and it had just been purchased. So that pulled them in to the web of everything. But if Luke Daly isn't Porch Guy, are these just people that appeared in Callella's phone? Do they have the link to Porch Guy? RN is very strange. I'm trying to figure out who's RN. RN is a weirdo. I like that. RN is a weirdo. Sorry, sometimes I look at the comments and then I get sucked in. Okay. So the Range Rover is very interesting because they had that weird, like, I don't think it was a sheet, but it was a tarp, a yellow tarp. Over the back that made everyone think, oh my gosh, there looks like there's a body in there, you know? Who's Richard Nolette? This is why I need to watch. Who is Richard Nolette? I need to figure this out. Interesting. Okay, Monterey Spike. Okay. I will keep going. So we all go to the Range Rover being taken away, and we see, oh, he's on the list. Is that for the guns at the pawn shops? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'm gonna stay on my track. See, my have shiny objects going on around me. You guys are so smart, and you find things out that I don't see and pick up. So sometimes I have to keep up with you guys, which is awesome. All right, so the Range Rover has the creepy sheet hanging up. Everyone's like, "Oh God, there's a body in the back," or they're swabbing goo. They're doing something in the back of that car, and then they take the car away. And then Luke Daly and his mother, who is, again, why his mother? Why the mother? Which is weird. She's detained while warrants are executed. And so I just have to wonder, since it doesn't appear that anything came of these that we know, and of course things could have. I mean, it could be that they have to go from point A to point B, get information, and then take that and then go to point C, and then point C is going to send them on to point D. So I totally get it, and we're not going to know because honestly, we're not supposed to know about any of this stuff. But if these were SWATs that we don't believe anything came out of, is this how they're just connecting the dots along the path of whatever it is that they're doing? And it feels like it's been quiet. Nanos, the few times he's actually done an interview, states that they're just waiting on this DNA to come back that he wasted everybody's time with. By sending it to the wrong lab, or not the wrong lab, but a different lab. And they literally had a private charter first class seat waiting for the DNA pouch to go to Quantico, which, seems like it would make sense, but it's okay. He's extra. We respect that. So is everybody just twiddling their thumbs? Because, again, the media has done the FBI a great service in telling everybody that they don't have a suspect. They do not have a prime suspect. And the only person saying that there is a suspect that they're working on and they're getting close to is the beautiful Maureen O'Connell. Everybody else, Mr. Brian Enton, he's the hero we all didn't know we needed, but he is. He's stating that they don't have a suspect. But Maureen O'Connell thinks that they're getting down the line. So was Luke Daly and Carlos and all that, were these just connecting the dots, getting further? Are we really just sitting around waiting to get the DNA? You know, they've, I think News Nation has had the, one of the executives from the Cajun Navy on quite a bit. They've been doing, I guess, storm chasing up in Minnesota right now, but the Cajun Navy has offered to search. AccuSearch has offered to search. They've offered to take drone images and put it in their AI machine called Locate in order to find, you know, a color and just go through all of the pictures and save human hours of having to do that. So, you know, why did the sheriff stop searching? He called off the dogs. You know, if they knew by then that Nancy was deceased, that's one thing. But you can't stop searching because that was the opportunity to have found her remains, you know? And it just shows a certain amount of disrespect that he stopped the search. And there's actually been some talk about how they opened the scene. And we're going to look at a couple news stories tonight, you know, about how there were some mistakes in really opening up that scene. And the first day where they lost all that time and they had people traipsing over all the evidence, you know, it makes us feel like, is Pima County Sheriff's Department, other than the task force, are they really just sitting around waiting for the DNA to come in? Is there nothing else going on? Chris McDonough doesn't feel like they're boots on the ground doing, you know, with the gumshoe detective work that, you know, old-timey detectives did. He doesn't feel like any of that's going on. And there still needs to be all that going on. So, you know, is Derek Callella connected to, is that how they found or hired Porch Guy? Was Derek Callella? Is the Bitcoin that everybody agrees, that sentence, that line that was texted, it appears to be the continuation of a conversation and an agreement that had already been done and was intercepted by law enforcement. If that's the only text from that phone number from Derek Callella, had A&T already, you know, deleted that information? Did they, you know, act surprised? How did that conversation go if law enforcement had the phones when those texts and that weird phone call came over? How's that conversation? Are they then separating? You know, I mentioned that it felt like they were really soft shoeing the investigation in Annie Guthrie's home because the entire family was there, but somebody had commented in the replay crew that the family had already moved on by then, but I don't think so. I think they were in that house for at least the first week. And, you know, there's not really an investigation going if the family's in the house. They were being treated. They were being given preferential treatment, in my opinion, because of the celebrity status. You know, Senator Kelly showing up to the sheriff's office with a box of donuts. He's not supposed to be involved. There seems to be, you know, if it was mishandled and if the family is involved or A&T is involved behind this whole thing with Nancy, Did they ignore it in the very beginning? Did they see that it was A and T, and did Nanos come out and clear the family in order to keep A and T calm? Because again, we need them to Netflix and chill. You know, what is it that we need the suspect to actually do? And, you know, I've mentioned several times that I have, you know, a contact who trained next to Cameron Guthrie in March after this whole thing happened. And at that point, Cameron said this is 100% tied to Savannah. So his belief is that it's an external threat tied to Savannah, a ransom to get her money and to get paid and to take what matters most to her. So, you know, are people wearing rose colored glasses, and again, not thinking that there's any way possible, according to the family, there's no way possible that T is involved. And T's would for sure be involved if there was a connection with Derek Callella. I had wondered if Annie may not have been involved, but the fact that she was texted indicates she could be involved or at least have knowledge. But that may not be the case either, because the third device, if say the third device that got the phone call 3 minutes after the texts were sent could be a minor, the minor child probably didn't know this was happening. So we could go back to A not knowing. And if A is a submissive personality to C, and if C chose A because she's submissive and he needs someone he can control and, you know, whatever, however that dynamic is, the less A knows, the better. You know, if this truly is T on his own, the devastation is real. And A is going to have all that put on her, while this whole time Savannah's had it on her shoulders. It's just a real mess. And no, I don't think it's Savannah. It's not Savannah and it's not Cameron, because they didn't get the text messages from Derek. And, you know, we're just making a lot of assumptions here. Nobody's been charged. Nobody's been accused of anything. We have to go down. These are things that, you know, are they're worthy of asking. So I asked ChatGPT if there's anything that they could find that would tie Carlos or Luke Daly to Club Congress in that whole scene. And of course, ChatGPT did not, although there's a lot of people who are going down this rabbit hole just like we are. And there's a lot of chatter on the socials of people trying to link Luke Daly and Carlos to Club Congress. So we're not the only ones looking at this. A lot of other people are, because as of right now, chat says, I searched specifically for this and I cannot find reliable evidence that either Luke Daly or Carlos Palazuelos was involved in a metal band or attended/performed at Club Congress. For Luke Daly, there are social media posts and videos circulating that try to place him in a broader Club Congress connection network, but I've not found a primary source such as a venue archive, concert flyer, blah, blah, blah. And again, the same thing with Carlos. There's no connection, but it's interesting to see how obviously there's a lot of chatter out there. We're not the only ones trying to connect this whole thing. And we've tried connecting Luke Daly and MG Motors, and there's no connection other than him purchasing a Range Rover there. And yes, it's really odd because those are expensive vehicles, and, you know, maybe his mother has a lot of money. I don't know, but there was some question about, you know, how he could afford a Range Rover. I think that there seems to be a drug issue that's kind of a central theme going throughout this, although I don't know if I think Carlos, there might be some drug issues as well, but that seems to be the only connection. Could be Tucson and maybe a drug connection. But I mean, that could be widespread. So at least ChatGPT could not find any connection to these fellows at all. And so I just, again, have to go back and wonder if if law enforcement did not get Carlos and Luke Daly from Callella, because other than triangulating and geofencing these phone numbers, or they got lucky and saw these cars, the Range Rover, maybe they saw the Range Rover on a Ring doorbell cam in the area at the same time. That's the only connection I can think is, again, how much did Derek Callella, what kind of a deal did he get? And it looks like they want Derek to go inpatient rehab until his sentencing on September 10th. And we were thinking that perhaps they wanted him in and fully sober if they're going to start. Oh, there goes Zosha. Zosha, the crime-fighting kitty. Here she comes. Hi, Zosha, the crime-fighting kitty. I have a shirt on of Zosha, the crime-fighting kitty. I thought I would make a t-shirt just in case anyone's interested. So, okay. All right. So I think I've beat this horse to death tonight. And there isn't anything new. I'm really just, again, trying to figure out and connect the dots between what information Callella could have found, because, I mean, again, Luke Daly and Carlos, unless they were triangulated with cell phone towers or their vehicles were seen on a camera, I have to predict that they were investigated potentially because of Callella and downloading his phone and seeing who he's texting a lot. It does make sense to me that, and I have to give this to Monk's Intrigue, because, we're all thinking that whole Bitcoin thing was weird. Yeah, it's weird, but it was really Monk's Intrigue who was the one who said the words that Bitcoin could be payment for services rendered, that it was just like, what? And that's really what's keeping me in this box right now. Because that makes sense. And again, we're all looking for something logical in a case where nothing has made sense. And, people saying the twists and turns of this, you think that you're onto something and then there's a twist and nope, that doesn't fit. Nope, that doesn't fit. So, all right. No, Zosha. No. Zosha. Go down. Say goodbye, Zosha. All right. So let me go over to an article. I'm going to read some articles that have just come out, and we'll just continue hanging out for a wee tad, okay? Because I like hanging out with you guys. You're my friends. So hang out with me a little bit longer. Oh, Monk's Intrigue is he said he's putting out a new video. And you know what I want to do? And yes, I know people don't like it that I play other people's work, but I like having watch parties. Maybe when his video comes out, I'll go live. We can all watch it together, right? Yay! All right. Nancy Guthrie update. Retired agent speculates significant disagreement within FBI. And again, I'm hoping that all of these are little leaks and that they really do have somebody. I'm very hopeful. And I'm hopeful it's not the family, but we have to look at it. Okay, a retired agent recently speculated there is significant disagreement within the FBI, as today co-host Savannah Guthrie's mother Nancy remains missing. During an interview with News Nation's senior national correspondent Brian Enton, former FBI agent Steve Moore discussed the recent discrepancies in what the Bureau has said about ransom notes. So Steve Moore, quote, "The more I see this, the more I think that there is some significant disagreement within the FBI investigation on what they're dealing with," Moore said on Brian Enton Investigates, "right down to the validity of certain pieces of evidence," unquote. A June 30 Reuters report claimed that an FBI official said none of the ransom notes sent about Nancy were legitimate. Meanwhile, FBI Phoenix said in a July 1st statement on X that it had received several ransom notes, with some deemed to be extortion attempts without legitimacy, while others may potentially be legitimate and are still being investigated as such. Even some that might have been written with a poetic flair, which tracks. Buried with nature, or buried in nature. The Bureau also noted that it continues to be investigated as a kidnapping for ransom case, but, which is true, it is a kidnapping for ransom case because she was taken for ransom. The idea was ransom. My thought again is that if this is an A&T inside job, that they would have needed to have Nancy eliminated to free up their lives and to make their financial situation better, and the inheritance would have to happen in order to cover up for the windfall of either $4 or $6 million. You got to have that inheritance because now I can say why I've got some new things, or that I can retire early, or whatever it is. Moore theorized that Reuters might have spoken with someone not from the Phoenix office for its report. And again, I question all of this. Tam, you're a new member. You guys, I am humbled. You guys, seriously, thank you so much. This is, I just can't believe it. Thank you so much. Shout out. Cool Kids Club. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Okay. Going back to the FBI, who in the FBI is leaking to Reuters? And how does Reuters have a phone number for someone at the FBI office in Phoenix? Blue Heron. I did not know his band did a tour in Italy. That would make sense though, because and Maureen O'Connell had mentioned, or Jennifer Coffindaffer had mentioned this before. The fact that anybody from the FBI would blab is so unprofessional, so against, whatever oath that they take. It's just, you're not supposed to do that. And, I think that PCSD had been threatened with their jobs to keep their mouths shut. There's nothing coming out of PCSD. So how is it that all these feds are talking? I can kind of see a Fed, an FBI agent talking to Maureen. She's retired FBI. She's in the club. She's one of them. She has friends. But why would someone call Reuters in the Phoenix office? That just seems crazy. And I think Brian Enton, who says they don't have a suspect, I think Brian's contact, without having clearly any idea who his contact is, but it would make sense that Brian Enton's contact is with PCSD, Pima County Sheriff, PCSD, because he got really friendly with them in the early days, and they liked him so much because, hello, he's a cutie patootie little baby munchkin, but they let him within the SWAT perimeter. Okay, they like him. What's not to like about him? But I don't think he's got a Fed contact, and if his contact is in the PCSD, like I said, I think they've been told to keep their yaps shut. They're gonna say they don't have anyone. Maura theorized that Reuters might have spoken with someone not from Phoenix office for its report, which would make sense. He explained it's completely common for the field office, in this case Phoenix, which covers Tucson, to have a totally different idea, concept, or belief than headquarters. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Regardless of whether or not ransom notes from the actual takers of Nancy ever existed, they still believe it remains a kidnapping. He added, with blood on the porch of Nancy's house, I think you have to put into play the very strong possibility that Nancy didn't survive long enough for them to even get a ransom note, unless the ransom note was written prior, unless all of this was staged. And we went through that whole thing about how if they were staged, the amount of time, if they got Nancy for game night, January 31st at 5:30 p.m. ish, she could have, I mean, I do think she went home, but technically she didn't have to go home. Nobody saw her go home. No one saw her at home. And there are some weird things about what was in the ransom note. I know that it's been mentioned on TIR about how it's odd that the ransom note didn't really get attention with the family for several days after, or the ransom note didn't even go to KOLD in Tucson until I think it was February 2nd. It was like 2 days after. She was already dead. That the ransom note, and the ransom note's acting like she's still alive. There's some timing issues here. And if this is a kidnap for ransom, while it technically is a kidnap for ransom, it's not done by professional kidnap for ransom. There's a real 101 course at a community college that you can take where you learn how to kidnap someone by the book, where you get in, bada boom, bada bing. You get in, you get the person, you get out, you send the note, you leave the note, you say, I need my money. Here's how you can find me. Send me my money. I'm going to bring grandma back. Here comes grandma. Grandma had the best time. We watched movies. Here comes grandma. Thanks for the cash. Bye. Deuces. Okay, that's what you learn at community college when you take the kidnap for ransom classes. And you get a degree, or at least a certificate. Whoever did this did not take the community college classes. And they did, hold on, there's a fly. They took Nancy. Oh man, they hurt Nancy. They killed Nancy. And I'm not making light of that, but they screwed up. Unless that was the intention, they were never going to return her. But then they didn't do the communication. And, I haven't talked about this, but everybody's making these messages in the family on Instagram. We need you to communicate with us. What if they couldn't be communicated with because all the devices that would be used to communicate back with them were in the box with ICACs in the house? And it's kind of hard to communicate a kidnap when everybody's in the same room. If this is an inside job, imagine how awkward that is. When you're like, crap, I've got to make another response for the kidnap to get the ransom, but I can't because that guy over there, Steve with ICAC's, got my phone in the box. And oh my God, everyone's making ham sandwiches with Hellman's mayonnaise and Wonder Bread. And I've got to act natural while we're making ham sandwiches. Gonna act natural. I can't, it's hard to do a kidnapping when you're in the room with everyone. God, why don't they leave? Can't these people go somewhere? Anyway, that's how that would feel. You're trying to act natural and make ham sandwiches, and you can't. And don't even come at me with Miracle Whip, anybody. Don't even come at me. That's a travesty. I will give you Kraft mayonnaise and you can stay, but do not come at me with Miracle Whip on those ham sandwiches, okay? Okay, you got it. Don't do that, Jet Set. Do not do that. MW. Do not. I won't even say the words. It's not Miracle Whip's not even mayonnaise. It's considered salad dressing and it's nasty. It's got that weird taste. Yes. Well, thank you, Jet Set. You can stay if you use regular mayo when making salads. Anyway, I digress because you know what? If we can't laugh, you guys, we're going to cry. All right. I certainly am totally respectful of the content here. But we have to keep a sense of humor because if we don't, we will cry. So again, there's no regular kidnapping going on, although it is a kidnap for ransom because somebody took her and wanted money. But they did not attend the 101 classes at the community college. All right, so we have a disagreement on the letters. I mean, I want to think that some of them are real, because, you know, it's like somebody tried to make it a real thing. So what is this one? A man who sent fake ransom notes in Guthrie case ordered into inpatient treatment. We've already done that one. I'm not going to do that one again because we've beat that one to death. All right. Nancy Guthrie update. Ex-FBI agent offers troubling new statement. Let's see who this is. As the months continue, on Thursday, July 9th, a former FBI agent offered up a new take on the situation, and it's a complicated one that adds some twists and turns, okay? Something recently caught the attention of people still locked into this case. The FBI said that Nancy Guthrie case is still considered a ransom for hire investigation, even though there's no confirmation of the validity of ransom notes. Oh, we just read that. Steve Moore. This is the same thing. This is what they do. They repurpose the same story and they just put a different title on it. And then they get me sucked in because I need twists and turns. I'm here for the twists and turns. All right. So we have, let me stop sharing my screen. We're going to watch this video. We're going to hang out for a little bit longer. Let me play this video because I'm hoping this is a twist and a turn. I'm sharing my screen again. It's another chance for you to subscribe if you haven't. All right. Let me make myself smaller. Let me fix this and I'll make myself smaller because you don't want to see me. All right, so let me play this. I don't know, 3 minutes. We've got 3 minutes. We're all hanging out.
For your perspective and your expertise here as someone who has been on the job before. But I know you told me last time that we only know the tip of the iceberg, that law enforcement knows, both the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department. But based on what we all do know, what mistake do you think is going to trip up this offender or offenders?
What I think is going to happen is people have a tendency to profit themselves. What I mean by that is people have a tendency to brag. People if you know human behavior, it's very, very difficult for individuals to maintain a secret. They have to tell somebody. You're my best friend, I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell anybody else. That's all it's going to take. And I think if you have two people involved, it's a little bit easier to keep it close to the vest. But eventually, I may become very angry with that person and say, or I may be getting locked up and say, I have information. If you give me immunity, I'll tell you what happened. It wasn't me, it was him, it was her. So I believe that emotional leakage, I believe that one slip up, that someone hears something or someone talks about something and someone goes, well, that's kind of strange. Why would they say that about that case unless they knew something about it? And then you have the money involved, and people say, well, if I say something and that's them people, those are the individuals, I may wind up making some money here. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen, Brittany.
Do you think that because this case is getting not renewed interest, I would say, but a lot more attention over the past week because of the contents of that alleged second ransom note, do you think this would encourage law enforcement to drip out more information of what they know about this that the public is not yet privy to?
You may see that. Look, everything the Bureau does, there's a purpose for why they do it. They just don't do things just to give the FBI publicity. The FBI doesn't need publicity. So they do things that are going to be beneficial to the investigation. And a lot of people use the terminology tickle the wire.
That's exactly what this was.
I mean, that's an old adage, but they'll do things that's going to be in their benefit. That's going to benefit them. It's going to benefit the case. And trust me, the Bureau and law enforcement, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, want this case solved more than anybody, as much as the family does. They really do. And I have a lot.
Well, and let's think about that because, I think that we all can see that all of a sudden, everything had been quiet. Legacy media had not touched this case in, a month or two. And all of a sudden, this guy, Howard Blum, releases an article where he's got new information on what was included in ransom note number 2 that has the statements that we were really looking for, the grammar, the fingerprints, phrases, etc. And that's exactly what they were doing. They're tickling the wire. And so when they're tickling the wire, they could be trying to get someone flushed. Who are they trying to flush? Who are they trying to flush? If they weren't getting, let's just say that A&T, let's just say that they're being monitored now. I'm sure that they probably are, regardless, okay? If A&T are being monitored and there's nothing going on, by having someone release the new information about what was in the note, buried in nature, something like that, that's really personal, sounds really weird, stands out, then who are they trying to get to respond? Because they're looking for, I can guarantee you, when they release that, they're specifically looking for one person to do something. Because they're probably needing to get something else in, their little cache of goodies. And I'll tell you who's going to be crapping blue Smurf poops is the person who wrote Buried with Nature that wasn't supposed to have been released to the public, especially if someone is a poet and they know it, which rhymes. But, oh my God, what if someone like Savannah has heard someone say that phrase in other conversations? That's going to cause a problem. That's going to cause a problem. Okay. And we've seen the weird poetry, the card that made it to the memorial where it says we're standing on scorched earth and ash and fire. I mean, it's just like doom and gloom. Doom and gloom. So buried in nature could be something that could make A and T go, oh my God, they released that. Text each other and go, oh crap. I hope Savannah doesn't hear this, or I hope Cam doesn't hear this because he's going to remember me saying that. And that's the kind of thing that the feds are going to look for, is who's responding. And I guarantee you, after they release that, the people that they're watching, they were checking to see who responded. All right, we've got 30 seconds left of this, so 20.
I faith in both agencies. And I think that if they continue to work together, and they're going to get a break, and that's all they need is one break. That just kind of
they do. And you know what? They might have gotten a break, and we just don't know it, because this came out a couple weeks ago. This information came out about this, this note. And again, if it's accurate that the stuff is true and in this ransom note, then that for sure is a Fed reaching out to a media and using them to tickle the wire, to get more information. They specifically want a response from one person in particular. And did they get it? Did they get it? We think that A&T are probably in Italy right now. But, the news stories everywhere. So I don't know. We don't know what's going on underneath it all. All right, you freak shows. I've been yapping. So when Monks comes out with the new video, why don't we just watch it together and react? Because I like to I'm thinking now that I need to do a reaction to his video because he's got good stuff. And I did email him and ask him to be on my measly, tiny little show. And I have not heard back, but he is obviously busy. He had posted that his family had gotten sick and he's got that cute kitty. And so Naples. Hi, Naples. You guys, it's Crunchy Sissy. Hi, Crunchy Sissy. How long have you been on here watching Crunchy Sissy? Crunchy Sissy and we just signed up for the crime cruise. Right, Crunchy Sissy? We're going to go together. Yeah, we're going to have a watch party. We're going to call it a watch party, but we're going to call it a reaction party. So we'll watch it together, we'll react, and then we'll comment. Yeah, Crunchy Sissy. Woohoo, Crunchy Sissy. Crunchy Sissy. Oh. All right, you guys. Well, let's look out for that next video. I have a family thing to do tomorrow afternoon, so it might be in the evening, but I will play the video and do some sort of a reaction, okay? And then we can talk about it and talk amongst ourselves and see if we can figure it out. Saturday night. Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you again. Thank you to all my members and thank you to my new members today. I'm going to have to figure out what to do for you guys. I'll do something. I'll appreciate it. All right, y'all. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And we will do a reaction watch party to Monk's video, maybe tomorrow evening, probably tomorrow evening. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. And I hope you all have a good evening, and I will catch you on the flip side. Toodaloo.